Hi, everybody, and welcome to Recovery as a Process, Not an Event. I'd like to at first just do a little introduction. My name is Wayne Records.
And my name is Don Coyas.
And we'll be your facilitators for the workshop. It is our intent to share with you information that might help you build your life, change your life, heal your life in ways that you've never attempted before. It also may be that we will tell you things that you already know or just reinforce things that are already working for you. So first, let me start with a little introduction of the workshop itself. Why did we pick the name, Recovery as a Process, Not an Event? Well, that is our experience. You know, as much as we would like it to be, some sort of magic that some wand that someone would tap us with, that we would suddenly be the person that we would choose to be, not the person that we may have been. What we found is there is a process, there is a method of recovery that is powerful, joyful, and gentle. And we'd like to share that with you in this workshop. So a little bit of what is the workshop? Well, it's information, it's models, it's approaches, tools to help you to improve the quality of your recovery and perhaps the speed of your recovery. And we think that by sharing those, this will be like the pebble that drops in the pond, that spreads ever outward to more and more people, increasing a greater and greater circle of wellness inside of the fellowship of recovery around the globe. Now, who is it for? Well, it's for us. It's for people like us who for some reason have ended up in a point in our life where we would choose to use the 12-step recovery method, this 12-step recovery process, to bring about physical, mental, spiritual, and emotional change, growth, and development for ourselves, to turn ourselves into a more functional, more joyful, more productive part of the human race. So it's targeted at anyone who is in any facet of the 12-step recovery community. It is not a workshop by any individual fellowship that is 12-step oriented. It is a service offering, a gift to anyone who can use it, anyone who finds the 12-step recovery process helpful to them, their families, their communities. So what's the content then of this workshop? Well, it's based in the 12-step information, the 12-step recovery process. So by default, we will be referring a lot back to what we believe is the foundation text of recovery. The original 12-step recovery process was documented in a book that we sometimes refer to as the Big Book. It was the text called Alcoholics Anonymous, and it gets referred to as the Big Book by people in 12-step recoveries. We also know that there are many other books, recovery texts for the other fellowships, and we think all of those are good as well. But for the purpose of our workshop, we will be referring back to that foundation text. Now, in addition to that, we'll be talking about the instructions, where to find the instructions for the recovery process inside of that foundation text, how to apply them in our lives. On top of that, we'll be sharing information about some basic self-image, self-esteem, self-development tools that are available and how to mix those together successfully to build our recovery stronger and more swiftly. We'll also be adding a great degree of information about spiritual concepts, and particularly Native American spiritual concepts. And over the years, Don, as he grew in his recovery and went back to his heritage and his community and his normal spiritual practices, has developed a lot of information that we've sort of joined together in this workshop. So it's the combination that we think is so powerful. The combination of finding the instructions for the 12-step recovery process as they were originally documented, mixing with that the self-development concepts that are readily available in the marketplace today, and the spiritual foundation of Native American spiritual practices, teachings of the Native American medicine wheel, and teachings from the elders. And Don will be sharing a lot of that information quite early on in the workshop as foundation. what we're going to be talking about in this section is what's holding us back from having the kind of life that we'd like to have. I would assume that people would come to a workshop like this. They'd give up hours or days of their time to sit in chairs, sometimes hard chairs, and listen to people talk, interact with each other, study for some reason. So my assumption here is that you have ended up in this workshop because there's something in your life that's not the way you would like it to be. That perhaps if you could, you'd have it another way. And the question is, what is it that's keeping it from being that way right now? What's holding you back from having the kind of life, physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, that you would choose to have? Well, it's our belief that the things that hold human beings back from achieving their full potential are barriers to our own success, are called habits, attitudes, beliefs, and expectations. Habits, attitudes, beliefs, and expectations. See, human beings limit themselves by the way that they think. So one of the things that we believe is a leverage point in the recovery process is some self-assessment of how we're thinking and how that thinking is translating into action and results in our life. So individuals, human beings, have been given by the Creator unlimited potential. So why is it that so many of us find that we're not getting it, or that life has become too complicated, or whatever it is? We seem to have not been shipped with the instruction manual, how to operate as a human being. Did you get your instruction manual? I'm not sure I got mine. And part of this workshop is sort of filling in the blanks and getting our instruction manual completed so that we can figure out how to optimize life for ourselves. So I'll put a little proposition on the table here. Doing and becoming more in our life is not a matter of working harder. It is a matter of thinking differently. You say, okay, so what? How do I think differently? That's my dilemma. How do I think differently? If I could think differently, I've already done it. Well, we think we have some information that can help you see easy, productive ways of looking at your patterns of thinking, your patterns of habits, attitudes, beliefs, and expectations, and how to change them if you choose to. See, the 12-step recovery process is a process that's structured in a way that allows us to see patterns of our lives and make different choices if we choose to. And we're going to be sharing that information with you as we go along in this workshop. So individuals, people like you and I, act and live not in accordance to the truth, but in accordance to the truth as we believe it. So we want to use a little exercise to demonstrate this. So what you'll see here in front of us is 9 dots, and on your pads, you all have pads in front of you. I'd like you to make a little pattern that looks like this with these 9 dots on your pad, sort of in the center of the page, and then follow these instructions. Connect all 9 dots using only 4 straight lines without lifting your pen or pencil from the paper or retracing a line. Simple instructions, right? Connect all 9 dots, 4 straight lines, no lifting and no retracing. So would you just have a go at that for a minute? See, individuals limit themselves by the way that we think. If we could change the way that we think, we would change the way that we act. So what are you thinking about this exercise? How easy it is to solve? How clear the instructions were? Or are you thinking how I never can solve these quizzes? I'm the one who never gets it. I'm going to be embarrassed. People limit themselves by the way that they think. So, everyone got it now? Solved? Hands up, everyone who's got it. A few people would maybe like a little help. And part of what we'll do in these workshops is we won't make it difficult. This is all about making it simple, making your recovery easier, just by sharing small pieces of information in a way that open doors for you that may have not been opened before. So let me go over here and solve the problem. There may be other ways to solve this, but here's the way that I would solve it. 4 straight lines. So what are you saying to yourself? Huh? He cheated. Who said he could use the space outside the dots? He crossed a line. Well, what were the instructions? Connect all 9 dots using 4 straight lines without lifting the pen from the paper or retracing a line. Now, frequently what happens with this simple exercise, as in other things in life, is we add some additional instructions, and they become the limiters on solving the puzzle of life. For example, when we were young, we were learning to color, and we frequently got given an instruction. It was, don't color outside the lines. Keep it neat. And then we had these little books where we connected the dots, and it made a pattern. And frequently people, when trying to solve this dilemma, will lay those instructions from another point in time on top of this exercise. And that becomes a limiter to achieving what's possible. And a simple exercise is nothing more than trying to open up the possibilities, that there's more outside of the boundaries of our own thinking, of the rules that we've set up for ourselves. And the rules we've set up for ourselves about how we operate our lives are like these 9 dots. They're a box that confines the possibilities of our lives to a limited amount of space. And what's important for us to know is we are the ones who are putting up those instructions that are causing us to not be able to expand those boundaries, to have a richer, bigger, more fulfilled life in all areas of our life. And part of this recovery process, part of the information we'll share in this workshop, is how to identify those situations, circumstances, and cases where we're putting unnecessary barriers into our life, complicating instructions that have nothing to do with what was going on right now, that we picked up somewhere along the way, perhaps from our family of origin, from schools, churches, dirty little boys and girls down the street who always knew the answer, cousins, uncles, aunts. All of these people along the way have given us the truth. And those truths have become instructions on how we operate our life. And today, as adults, we might be operating off of 3rd grade instructions on something like how to solve a puzzle with 9 dots. And wouldn't it be nice if we had some sort of method to just inspect that and throw out the silly ones, the unnecessary ones, the complicating ones, and then to add in there instructions or truths that are more appropriate to who we are and where we would choose to be. And that's what we'll talk about. So there's a couple of things that we'd like to just get some terms going here. One of those is a concept that we call lock-on, lock-out. To the degree that we lock onto the truth around anything, we lock out information and possibilities that might allow us to look at it another way. So if, when you heard these instructions, you locked onto the fact that you couldn't solve the puzzle, or that there were other instructions or truths that were keeping you from solving it, that would shut down your information system and keep you from seeing other possibilities. Lock on, lock out might be called impossibility thinking. We'll be talking about possibility thinking a lot in this workshop. And possibility thinking requires that we give ourselves permission to look outside of the 9 dots, outside of the current boundaries of our life, for solutions to problems that we've never been able to solve before. So the next thing I'd like to talk about is, what are we going to do in this workshop anyhow? Well, one of the things that we'll be doing is searching together for answers to commonly asked questions about the 12-step recovery process. Now, maybe none of you have ever had these questions, but I've had these questions. Like, what do these 12 steps do to people at work then? Would I want to do that? Would I want to have that done to me, for me, with me? How do they do what they do? You hear people talking about work the 12 steps. How do they do their magic? Yeah? Would anyone like to know this? I would. Will these 12 steps work for me? I know they might work for you or for you, but would they work for me? Is this a personal kind of process that I can work for me that would get me these results that people talk about? And if I've already worked these steps once, should I do it again, or is it one shot gets you to the moon and you stay there forever? Yeah? Or is it possible we continue to use this process to grow along spiritual lines for the rest of our life? We think the answer is the second of those, that this process is a repeatable, predictable process for change that will help us grow from where we are today to some place we've never been before. And when we're there, we can use the same process to grow from there to someplace else we've never been before. I think this is a fantastic process, this 12-step recovery process. And we're really grateful to those first people who somehow figured it out and were able to write it down in a book. And, again, we want to come back to the foundation text of recovery, which we believe to be the book called Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm always in awe when I think about this. At the point in time they wrote that book, there were only about 100 successfully recovering people. And together they actually wrote a book that had instructions that we're still using. What do you think the odds are that the collection of us today could just sit down here and write a little script and agree on the words? Yeah, some struggle that would be. And even if we did, what are the odds it would stand the test of time? That it would still be useful 50 or more years on for people who are still looking at those instructions and using them to change their lives. Something else was going on there. They had some help, we believe. So I'd like now to use another exercise to just build on this notion of seeing what's possible and to know that we're conditioned to see things based on our previous conditioning. So each of you should have a card in front of you. And I'd like you not to turn that card over yet, but when you do turn it over, I'd like you to be looking for some objects and just see how many of these you can see. So some people, when they turn this card, if you turn your card over now, some people, when they turn this card over, see, an arrow. Some people see a hat. Some people see like maybe a little Lego tank or something like that, or an architectural drawing of a fireplace. Variety of different things are on here. How many people see the arrow? Hands up. Very good. The hat? Yes. Other objects? See, yes. Anybody see any letters or words on this card? Yes, Tom, what is it that you see on this card?
I see fly.
Fly? There's a fly in the room? Is that what you mean?
Well, that too.
Oh.
But
You mean that there's a word on this card?
Mm-hmm.
And the word is, how many people can see this? And some people can't see it. See, part of what we do here is we help each other. We help each other see the things that we can't see. So for just a second, would you just talk to the person next to you for just a second and show them what you see that they don't see, just for a second? Recovery and the tools we share here are about helping each other see the things we can't see. Okay? Everybody have it now? Now, what was going on there for those people who couldn't see the letters? Well, we think it was something called scotomas. Sensory locking out of information based on previous conditioning. If we were conditioned to read black letters on white background, we wouldn't be looking for white letters on white background. And I deliberately distracted you, didn't I? I deliberately asked you to look for the letters, which in fact are the object, which are the spacing. And you say, well, that's not fair. Yeah, well, life's not fair. Do you know how many people are giving you the misguided truth every day of your life? Ever show up at one of these recovery group meetings and someone tells you how hard it's going to be to recover? Or, if you do this, it's going to be painful, and if you do that, it's going to be horrible. And you think, well, maybe I won't try that. Well, maybe they know the truth. And it's happened all through our lives. Families, friends, teachers, religious people. Give us a version of the truth, which may have been appropriate in the context it was given, but it may not be appropriate for what we need to see today. And so what we'd like you to do is to start opening up your lenses and scanning for things that are in the boundaries of what you're seeing. What is just outside of the range of what you're seeing today? If what you could see was only these kind of objects, but it would be useful to see letters if you needed to recover or read the script, then how could you condition yourself to see more? We believe that that's available in this workshop. We think that it's easy to grasp, particularly when we gather in circles like this and we help each other. See, it's not about I'm knowing something and you don't know, therefore I've got the answer and you don't. This whole recovery system is about people helping people. And sometimes people who've had terrible damage in their lives. We sometimes think of ourselves, well, maybe we're the one who's got the most damage and we'll never make it. Well, take heart. I think there's lots of examples of people who've had just as much damage in their life as you, and more, and they have recovered and built lives of joy, health, happiness, success, spiritual wellness beyond their wildest dreams. That's also available to you. So what I'd like to just close here is, what is it that you're not seeing that's right in front of your eyes? What is it you're not seeing about your own recovery or the possibility of recovery? And would you like to go on the journey with us to see it? So on the next segment, Don will be talking more about the 12 steps as a system and how to think about them as a whole system. And that'll be right after this segment.
Now is a good time to utilize a talking circle with your group. Focus on a subject which was discussed on the tape. Each soul must meet the morning sun, the new sweet earth, and the great silence alone. Charles Eastman, Sue.